Hey, good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack here. Monday now, the 20th of October, 2025. Good as always to have you with me, everybody. A lot to talk about this afternoon in regards to our Invest Area 98L. Where is it going to go? How strong is it going to be? Who could be impacted? I'm going to give you the short answer. We don't know. This one is going to be very difficult to figure out, with a lot at stake for a lot of different areas of real estate down in the Caribbean, and there's a non-zero chance, of course, that this could impact Florida, the United States, maybe somewhere else. You never know until these things are moving away from you, and even then, sometimes you just never know, right? But there is a non-zero chance, and I don't say that trivially. This could impact the United States. Low chance right now, based on everything we know. So let's start off examining everything with a look at the National Hurricane Center homepage. Here it is, the information. Let's see if the graphic has updated. Not quite yet, but that doesn't matter. It is Invest Area 98L, 70% chance, 90% chance over the next 2 and 5 days, respectively. Environmental conditions are getting better for this system to develop, and it is expected to become a depression and probably a tropical storm. And the name, of course, will be Melissa, and we'll take a look at close-up satellite of it in just a moment. That'll help things as we examine it. Thought this one was an interesting post from the folks at the NHC TAF-B. That is the Tropical Analysis and Forecast Branch, part of the National Hurricane Center. I like how they mentioned 98L/AL98, because the AL98 is the official term, and us lazy folks in Weather Geek Kingdom, we just call it 98L. I just thought that was kind of cool that they sort of acknowledge that, if you will. Other than that, pretty interesting post here. It is starting to generate some big waves, our system out here. But they're going to get bigger as this gets more and more organized. And by the way, if you're interested in the marine impacts, marine weather, there's the hashtag right there. You should follow the TAF-B branch down here at the National Hurricane Center. It's very helpful, especially if you, again, have marine interest. And they just post really good analyses and other cool graphics. All right. Here is the satellite animation, and hopefully the whole Amazon Web Services crash, all the stuff related to that, is not impacting data too much, by the way. I was checking everything, and it does appear that all the satellite stuff is generally up to date, but it might be just a little bit off, whatever. Just thought I'd throw that out there. What a way to start a Monday when half the world's internet isn't working or something like that. Anyway, what do you notice? Well, because it's October, look at all these mid-latitude storms cutting across. They're coming in from the Pacific Northwest, cutting across the northern tier of the country. Eventually, we could get a pretty big dip in the jet stream and more powerful storms that affect areas farther to the south. But it is still hurricane season, and there is our Invest Area 98L in the eastern Caribbean Sea after emerging off the coast of Africa many, many days ago. Here's a close-up of said feature. You can start to see at least a little bit of mid-level turning right in here. Not a lot of evidence of a defined low-level circulation just yet, but none of that matters in terms of the impacts that are going to be happening now. And what we've seen in the last couple of days as it went through the islands, which are off the screen over here. Rain, squally weather, all that stuff. Yes, this is a big weather feature. It's coming together. And if it does impact some of these islands down here, Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao, the ABC Islands, as they are affectionately known, those areas could get some very heavy rain and squally conditions as well. That is why we track these things, even when they are quote-unquote weak. But it's getting there. It's got decent upper-level outflow trying to develop, and it's just got to slow down a little bit. It's moving pretty fast, between 15 and 20 miles per hour, and once it starts to slow down, it should be able to consolidate. And where that center forms is going to be very, very important. If it's down here versus up here somewhere, then it could track much more to the west than some of the model guidance is showing. We will certainly look at that as we move forward here. In fact, let's do it now. This is what it looks like on the infrared. It's just a still frame. This is the locator, if you will, where the current center of circulation, what of it there may be, is thought to be right now, or at least as of this update on the plot. And again, this dashboard, of course, over at Tropical Tidbits, you click on Current Storms, you select whichever one you want. There's a lot of activity globally We're going to just focus on 98L, by the way. Just not enough time in the day. So yeah, this is what it looks like in case you're new to these videos and you're wondering, where do I see this? Nice little dashboard that Levi Cowan has coded up for us. So here's what the spaghetti plots look like. And to my earlier point about, hey, I don't know what's going to happen with this. Nobody has the answer to this one. That is for sure. When you see that big time divergence, you know there are problems with the steering patterns. And a lot of it has to do with how strong this gets when. In other words, if it gets stronger sooner, it probably would start to turn more to the north towards the island of Hispaniola. If it's delayed or further south, it could go more to the west, maybe come up north a little bit and then continue west. There could be a stall involved in here. And even looking at the consensus, one of them anyway, the TVCA right in here, and there's a TVCX. All your consensus models, they're also kind of wacky, feeling the tugs and the pulls, and it's just a mess because the global models, the AI models, all of them. And wait till I'll show you this interesting post towards the end today from Matt Devitt down at Wink TV regarding the Google AI. It literally is like a scatter shot of what could happen in almost two entirely different directions. So this one's going to be tough. But the big concern that I have, to be honest with you, is that this gets tangled up in and around Hispaniola. And that is because it's mountainous, especially over here in Haiti, the Haitian Peninsula, known for some pretty bad biblical scale disasters, from tropical cyclones dumping excessive amounts of rain and causing flooding, to earthquakes, you name it. They've got the turmoil down there with civil unrest and all that good stuff that's not good at all. You understand that is the biggest area of concern for me. Let's keep it away from this big island here. Of course, we don't need it. And there was a few days there where it was trying to backtrack towards Puerto Rico. That does not look nearly as likely now. So our other areas of concern will certainly be Jamaica. Don't want to leave my friends in Jamaica out. You don't want it either, especially if it's going to move slowly over these areas. And the same goes for Cuba. And then honestly, anywhere in the Bahamas, Turks, Caicos, whatever the case may be, all these land areas, if you're going to have a tropical system, let's get it in and out in a hurry. Let's don't have it dawdle around and wait and dump a lot of rain. And down here in the deep tropics, and these are still areas of the deep tropics, you can get a lot of rain. Now, going back to the intensity, real quick, I want to look at this. Don't worry about this at all right now. I'm going to let's change that to red. Let's put an X through this. Don't worry about this. Why am I even showing it? Well, just a little bit of a hint at what might happen. Most of the guidance keeps it as a tropical storm. I'm not going to worry about that. I think that this has the potential, if it can get into the Western Caribbean, to be a lot stronger than what we are seeing here. We are still clearly in the formative stages, as you can see there. So don't worry about intensity guidance just yet. Because later on, this is a post from Eric the other day, our good friend Eric Webb. You know, the Western Caribbean is by far and away the most anomalously warm subbasin in the global tropics at the moment. In other words, this area right through here is the warmest water relative to average down in the deep tropics anywhere on the planet. So if something was going to be nasty and intense with low pressures and high winds and all that stuff, that could be right in through here in parts of the Western Caribbean, right? And we can see this is his screenshot from when he posted this way back yesterday. All right. Hey, when you're dealing with the internet, even just yesterday is a long time ago. But the potential is definitely there. So where might this end up going? Again, a lot is going to really be pinned upon when this gets its act together. The faster it can develop and kind of get a deep vortex, and the atmosphere with any weakness to the north and east can sort of tug on it, the sooner that it could turn north towards Hispaniola. And that is exactly what the GFS tries to do. It gets this thing wrapped up in short order, and then it moves very quickly towards almost the border there between the Dominican Republic and Haiti. And this is at 78 hours or so, it would make landfall. And then it just kind of sits around there pretty slowly for the couple of days. But you notice there's a very large area. Well, you don't notice if I don't highlight it in a color that stands out. There we are. There's just a large area of cyclonic turning all through here, which tells me that the model is sort of leaving some stuff on the table, so to speak. It's not all bundled around would-be Melissa. This is a big hint to me. Still got all this other residual energy. Like, what's happening with that? That's a big clue that, yeah, maybe this isn't going to go the way the GFS are showing at all, which will be interesting, especially when I show you the Euro, all right? So this is 108 hours, and it goes on out into the Atlantic as a very large, trying to get its act together hurricane, and that's more than a week out. So we don't want this to happen because that is a tremendous amount of rainfall in an area that you just don't need it, and it's not very quick, right? All right, so there is the GFS, and let's move this out to 72 hours and leave it there. Now let's look at the overnight run. By the way, this is the 12Z run. I'm going to get all my times out there. It's 12Z today. The Euro, I'm going to show you because we get the full run. You know what? Screw the full run. Let's go to the 6Z because we only need about 6 days or so. And the 6Z has that off the tidbit site. So we will be comparing 6Z, so it's only, 6 hours ago, roughly. And by the way, you can clearly see there's the structure of our system, our tropical wave. So the Euro brings this in and tries to develop it there south of Hispaniola, dawdles around a little bit, and then it goes on off, milling around there, and probably some weakening going on, and then it heads on over eventually towards the Western Caribbean, maybe near Honduras and Nicaragua. But let's back this up all the way to 72 hours. So at 72 hours, the GFS and the Euro, not tremendously far apart. That's not some huge spread, but it is enough so that if this is closer to any kind of a weakness that we have in the upper levels of the atmosphere, let me find the anomaly here. There's just enough of a weakness through here, not enough ridging to hold this down. I was trying to explain this to Brent the other day, our friend out there in the Virgin Islands, that how all this pressure pattern stuff works, that you don't always have to have some big sweeping trough to come in, that think of it like a balloon inflating, keeping another balloon from being able to move. Everything's a liquid in the atmosphere. It's all fluids. And you don't have to have a noticeable dip or a big trough. There's just a lack of ridging. There's a lack of pressure pushing on would-be Melissa in the GFS that it is able to go poleward. And most of these systems want to naturally go towards the poles, which is an interesting thought. Like, why? And I know people are going to say, well, they have to redistribute heat. Well, that's a side product, but why do they always try to go north? It's very odd. Eventually they do. They always try to go north, except for the ones that don't. Anyway, explaining this to the layperson, it's hard because there's not an obvious trough sitting out there, but the lack of ridging and poleward, it starts to go. Whereas on the Euro, that simply isn't the case, basically, right? And it's able to gain a lot more longitude later on. In fact, if we do go look at the 0Z run from last night, you see how this plays out. It gets farther and farther to the west with time, strengthens more significantly, and then way out at about day 10, it starts to make its move out of the Caribbean. So this one's going to be really hard to figure out, no doubt about it. And it's further complicated by the AI models, I guess. It's just more, noise or whatever. I mean, I don't know what to make of all this. This is a great post here from Matt Devitt not too long ago. Today, the Google weather model, the DeepMind or whatever it's called, sums up the current uncertainty pretty well. Basically divides into two camps south of Haiti, one group northeast and one group more west. And you can clearly see that on the GIF animation that Mr. Devitt has posted here. Figure this one out. And the other thing I want to mention about this before we wrap it up, two things actually. One, we got Recon scheduled for tomorrow, and there will be more flights, I'm sure, after that. So that's good. But here's the one thing that was kind of bothering me. If this was really going to be heading toward Hispaniola, where a lot of people live, it's not uninhabited, all right? I think that we would have seen in the tropical weather outlook them mentioning, this might be a big clue, the potential for this to be named a potential tropical cyclone. Because remember, that is not just for United States interests. That whole PTC thing was not to give us in the United States advanced warning or whatever. It's not for our benefit only. So I was thinking about that. Wait a minute. They don't mention watches or warnings. This could potentially be a PTC later, whatever. It'll be really interesting to see if that gets mentioned perhaps at 8 p.m. tonight or even by tomorrow, because the window to prepare for all that rain and all the other impacts in Hispaniola is shortening if, in fact, this is going to head towards the island as the GFS shows. So just little clues there. What you don't see sometimes can be pretty revealing. So at least recon tomorrow. Multiple flights will be starting. That'll be of help for sure. And we will see what is going to be happening there. What is 98L going to do? Stay tuned. I don't know. Like I said at the top of the show, it pretty much is a show at this point because I've been talking for a while, but that's the complexity of this. I don't have any clear-cut answers for you, so we're all going to have to just find out together. All right? So that is it from me for today. Have a good rest of your Monday. From all of us at the HurricaneTrack community, our big old family, we appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Mark Sudduth. I'll talk to you again some more tomorrow.